When I was a young man growing up in a small village outside the bustling streets of Mumbai, I used to believe that getting old was just about wrinkles, white hair, and slow steps. I thought age alone made a person look old. But now, at 78, after raising children, burying friends, loving one woman for 52 years, and watching the world change from handwritten letters to smartphones, I can tell you something important. It's not age that makes you look old and unhappy. It's habits. Ugly habits. And I learned this the hard way. My dear friends, if you are willing to listen to an old man's experience, let me confess something. There was a time when I looked far older than I actually was. People thought I was in my late 60s when I had just turned 55. My back wasn't that bent. My health wasn't that bad. But my face carried a weight that had nothing to do with years. It was the habits I carried inside me. The first ugly habit that makes many elderly people look older and deeply unhappy is constant complaining. Oh, I was a master at this. I complained about the weather. I complained about the government. I complained about how children these days have no respect. I complained about food, prices, noise, technology. Every sentence from my mouth began with dissatisfaction. I didn't notice it at first. But one day my granddaughter looked at me and said, "Dada, why are you always angry?" That question struck me like lightning. I wasn't angry, I thought I was just being honest. But constant complaining carved permanent lines of bitterness on my face. It made my eyes dull. People avoided sitting near me. Complaining doesn't just make you sound old. It makes you feel old. It drains your energy. And energy, my friends, is youth. The second habit is resisting change. I remember when smartphones became common. I refused to touch one. I would proudly say, "In my time, we wrote letters," as if that made me superior. I rejected new music, new ideas, new ways of thinking. I built a wall between myself and the modern world. And that wall made me lonely. Change is not the enemy of the elderly. Stubbornness is. I once read about how even great minds like Albert Einstein continued learning and questioning until their last breath. Growth keeps the mind alive. When we refuse to adapt, we shrink. And shrinking makes a person look small, fragile, and outdated. The third ugly habit is neglecting physical appearance. Now listen carefully. I am not talking about expensive clothes or fancy hairstyles. I am talking about self-respect. There was a period after I retired when I stopped caring. I wore the same wrinkled clothes all day. I stopped trimming my beard properly. I stopped standing straight. I told myself, what's the point? I'm old. But that mindset showed on my face. When you stop caring about how you present yourself, you silently tell the world you have given up. And nothing ages a person faster than giving up. The day I started grooming myself again, polishing my shoes, combing my hair neatly, and walking with a straight spine, something changed. People responded differently. More importantly, I felt different. The fourth habit is living in the past. Oh, this one is dangerous. I used to begin every conversation with, "In our days," as if my youth was the golden era and everything now was inferior. I replayed old memories so often that I stopped creating new ones. Nostalgia is sweet, but too much of it becomes poison. When you live only in yesterday, your eyes lose the sparkle of tomorrow. I met a man once in Delhi who was 82 and learning to paint. His hands trembled, but his spirit danced. He told me, "I don't want to die remembering what I did. I want to die doing something." That sentence changed me. The present moment is the only place where life happens. If you abandon it, you abandon youth. The fifth ugly habit is isolating yourself. Many elderly people slowly withdraw. They stop meeting friends. They avoid gatherings. They sit alone with television as their only companion. I did this too after losing my wife. Grief wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I told myself I needed solitude, but solitude slowly turned into loneliness. And loneliness aged me faster than time ever could. Human beings are not meant to live like closed books. We need laughter, conversation, even small arguments over tea. When I finally joined a local community group and started sharing stories with people, even talking about films like Sholay that we all loved, I felt alive again. Connection is medicine. Isolation is slow decay. The sixth and perhaps most damaging habit is holding on to resentment. My friends, anger preserved for years becomes poison in the blood. I held grudges against relatives who had wronged me decades ago. I replayed betrayals in my mind before sleeping. I refused to forgive. I believed forgiveness meant weakness. But do you know what resentment did? It hardened my face. It tightened my jaw. It stole my peace. The day I forgave an old friend who had cheated me in business long ago, I felt lighter. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Bitterness makes you look older than your years. Peace softens the eyes. And soft eyes look young. Let me tell you something else I discovered. Youth is not in the skin. It is in curiosity. It is in laughter. It is in gratitude. I once saw an interview of Nelson Mandela where, despite decades of imprisonment, his smile carried warmth, not hatred. That is strength. That is agelessness. A joyful heart can live inside an old body. You may be wondering, old man, are you saying we should pretend to be young? No. I am saying we must not surrender to habits that make us unnecessarily old. Wrinkles are beautiful. White hair is honorable. Slow steps are natural. But negativity, stubbornness, carelessness, nostalgia addiction, isolation, and resentment, these are choices. I stand before you not as a perfect man, but as a corrected one. I still catch myself complaining sometimes. I still struggle with change, but now I pause. I breathe. I ask myself, is this making me wiser or just older? There is a difference between aging and decaying. Aging is inevitable. Decaying is optional. When I wake up each morning, I stretch my back as far as it allows. I comb my remaining hair with pride. I send a message to my grandson on his smartphone. Even though my fingers type slowly, I walk to the park and greet strangers. I learn one new thing each week. Sometimes it's small, how to use a new app or the meaning of a new word. But learning keeps the mind flexible. My dear friends, if you wish to look younger and happier in your later years, do not chase creams or surgeries. Chase lightness in your heart. Replace complaints with gratitude. Replace stubbornness with curiosity. Replace living in the past with participation in the present. Replace isolation with connection. Replace resentment with forgiveness. When you do this, something magical happens. Your eyes begin to shine again. Your voice gains warmth. People enjoy your company. Children feel safe around you. And you begin to realize that happiness has no expiration date. I used to fear growing old. Now I fear growing bitter. If my 78 years have taught me anything, it is this: the world does not push the elderly away. Sometimes we push the world away first. Drop the ugly habits, and you will see. Age can be graceful. Age can be powerful. Age can even be beautiful. So listen to this old man's experience carefully. Do not wait until your face carries regret. Start today. Choose habits that make you lighter, not heavier. Choose joy over judgment. Choose connection over isolation. And one day when your hair turns white like mine, may people look at you and say, "What a radiant soul." Not because you avoided aging, but because you aged with wisdom, humility, and happiness.